Colombians are heading to the polls on Sunday, and at the heart of this presidential election is a peace process with Farc insurgents that could finally end one of the world's longest-running armed conflicts. Polls show the country's centrist president, Juan Manuel Santos, who is seeking re-election to see through the peace process, to be in a dead heat with Oscar Iván Zuluaga, a conservative candidate who is critical of the negotiations with the guerrillas. We are now going to see President Santos to get his point of view. President Santos, thank you so much for talking to the FT only days before such a crucial election. And I'd like to start with the peace process, as both your predecessor, Álvaro Uribe, and his chosen candidate, Oscar Iván Zuluaga, have harshly criticized your peace efforts, and their arguments seem to have found fertile ground among many Colombians. Why do you think that is, and why, on the other hand, are you so convinced these peace negotiations are the way to go for today's Colombia?
Colombia has been a country at war for 50 years. The majority of Colombians have not seen one single day of peace, and this must stop. And we have been creating the conditions and advancing as never before. For the first time, we have a real opportunity to reach peace, to end the conflict. We negotiated 5 points in a very clear agenda. Last Friday we closed the third point. That means we are 60% of the agenda agreed to, and this is something that we had never seen before.
This presidential campaign has not been, let's say, the cleanest of all. It has been called a dirty war. There has been a slanging match, bribery and spying allegations between opposing camps. And somehow, always present in the discussions is your predecessor and former boss, Álvaro Uribe. Why was there a breakup between you two, and how come from this strife appears to hang the future of Colombia?
I've been attacked with lies since the very first day of my government by my predecessor, because he thought I was going to be his puppet. And I said, by no means, I'm no puppet of anybody, and I took the decisions with complete independence, who my cabinet was going to be, and since then he became a very acid enemy, and he has not stopped since that day, every single day, attacking me through every means possible. Well, that's part of the political game. But what we've seen in the last weeks is something way beyond anything which is normal. He's been accusing me of things that, with no substance, of things that have no logic whatsoever. And so the enemies of the peace process are desperate and trying to stop the peace process by any means. But I'm going to persevere. I learned that from Winston Churchill, which I admire very much. When you have difficulties, when you are in front of harsh enemies, you must persevere, and that's what I'm going to do. And I'm going to win the elections, and I'm going to reach an agreement and finish this war.
Going back to the peace process and what was agreed on Friday, the peace negotiators agreed on a key point of the peace agenda, which also has an international relevance, that is how to tackle the illegal drugs trade. If a peace deal is finally signed, how do you think, realistically, this is going to help in the fight against cocaine trafficking?
Colombia has been the most important provider of cocaine to the world for the last 30 or 40 years. The Farc has been labeled as the #1 cartel for many, many years. They, of course, deny that. They say that they simply tax the drug traffickers. But the fact that they, in a way, change sides and become the allies of the state to do away with drug trafficking, to substitute the coca crops with legal crops, to eradicate drug trafficking from Colombia, is a major, major step forward.
Focusing on the economy for a second, Colombia has been growing steadily, but your administration has said repeatedly that AP Steel will boost economic growth even more. How would that happen?
Today, Colombia is the country in Latin America with the strongest economy. We have been creating more jobs than any other country in the region. We have the lowest inflation. So we have a very, very strong economy, which is also producing very good social results. The poverty is going down, extreme poverty going down, and for the first time, inequality is coming down. So can you imagine if we have achieved this and many more other results that I could mention if you want me to, in the middle of a conflict, of an armed conflict, what Colombia will be if we end this conflict?
Some say the peace talks hang from the rebels going to jail or not, but it seems you're damned if you do send them to prison because talks may fall apart, and damned if you don't send them to prison because many Colombians are opposed to preferential treatment for Farc rebels who committed crimes or order crimes to be committed. But many times you have asked the question of how much justice do Colombians would be willing to sacrifice for the sake of peace. Only days ahead of the election, do you think Colombians have found an answer to that question?
You ask the people, would you like the Farc to become a political party? People say no. Would you like the justice system to be lenient with these people? People say no. Would you like these people to go to Congress? People say no. But if you have a package deal and you tell this is the price of peace and these are the benefits of peace, people will say yes. You saw something quite similar with the IRA. And we have one of the persons who negotiated the IRA as one of my main advisors. He's been extremely helpful. And this is a normal procedure in these type of situations. And we must be patient, and when we reach a final agreement, explain to the country the implications, the pros and cons. And I am quite sure, because one of the conditions is that people will have a say in the final agreement. I am sure that the Colombian people will vote for peace because they are tired of war.
So, if you get re-elected, how confident are you that a peace deal will be signed?
I am confident because I think that we have advanced enough to make this process a process that will end satisfactorily. We would not have advanced this much if there was no will to reach a final agreement.
How worried are you that if you are not elected on Sunday, peace talks will fall apart?
Well, it would be very difficult because this has been very carefully planned. I have been creating the conditions. The international community is supporting me wholeheartedly. This is very important. I have been talking to almost every head of state, and the military are right now in favor of the peace process, which was something very important. Before they were not. And so there are so many aspects of this process that are present in this government, that a change of government will mean that the risk of this collapsing is quite high.
President Juan Manuel Santos, thank you very much for talking to the FT.
Thank you.